Well, what's good? It is that time again to discuss the records we've been able to find since the month of May. Hard to believe that we're in June already. The year is halfway through. June is a pretty special month for myself and my family. My oldest daughter will be 16 in a couple of weeks. My wife and I are celebrating our 20th anniversary, which is incredible and a blessing in itself, man. So got some birthdays and other stuff going on as well. So this is a pretty busy month, but hey man, we still buying these records, you know? So let's get into what I've been able to find. Want to give a shout out to Vinyl Days Records in Virginia Beach, Virginia. We had to travel up there last week. My wife had a conference and had to just be in town for a day. And I've been going to Virginia Beach for well over 30 years. I got family there. My aunt, my uncle lived there. So got a chance to look at them and visit with them for a hot minute. But really was just in town for a day and had a couple of hours to kind of kill before we had to do some other things. So I was able to get some records. So went to Vinyl Days and loved the spot. It's actually maybe a mile from the ocean front. It's on Laskin Avenue. So if you're in the Virginia Beach area, you're by the ocean, it's really within a 5 to 10 minute drive, depending on where you are, to the shop. But it's very nice, very cozy, but got great selection. Shout out to Maddie and Dan. They were really cool and very hospitable and was able to help me kind of move around the store. So didn't get a chance to stay as long as I wanted to, but you know, glad to go. And I'll definitely be back next time I'm in town. So let me show you what I found there. So first, Earth, Wind, and Fire, That's the Way of the World. This probably, I wouldn't say, I would probably say it might be one of the greater Earth, Wind, and Fire known albums. Ironically, it was for a soundtrack for a movie. And I saw the movie, this was back in the late 80s. It was on one of those late night shows. I'm trying to show my age. And I recorded it. And basically, the movie was about a guy who was a music producer named Harvey Keitel. He's a pretty known actor, but he played a producer, and they said he had the golden ear. And Earth, Wind, and Fire was the group that he wanted to promote. He was trying to get them stardom. The record company that he worked for was like, nah, we really don't want you to work with them. We want you to work with this other group of people that we have. It was a white girl and two white guys. They had this whole Americana thing that they wanted to do, but they didn't have any talent. So he was basically, you know, using all the tricks and tools to augment their voices and do all this stuff to make them popular. And long story short, he basically quit the company and wound up focusing on Earth, Wind, and Fire to make them stars. The wild thing about it is when you listen to this record, none of these songs have anything to do with the movie. None of it. Shining Star, that's the way of the world. If you listen to that song, it's really a song of optimism. Really kind of a realization of the world. You know, Happy Feeling, All About Love. None of these songs had nothing to do with the movie. So it's kind of interesting. It kind of gets you the idea why the movie didn't do all that well, but this record became a classic. So I was happy to pick this up at Vinyl Days. Next one. This one right here, man, Levert. Backstory. I lived in a little town called Yellow Springs, Ohio, right outside of Dayton. Lived there for a good bulk of my life. When my mother and my father divorced, my father remarried. So we inherited a whole new crop of relatives, aunts and uncles and cousins, and you know, love them to this day. I had an uncle named UW, but we called him Junior. And Junior was a self-made man. He was the epitome of a hustler. He was just a good dude, just good guy, funny as all get out too. But he was a self-made man. And he had a detail shop. And what he would do when I would come to visit on the weekends to see Dad, he would pick me up and take me to his detail shop to clean cars. He had like had like an agreement with a rental car company to clean their cars. And so he picked up me and picked up my pops, and we went to the shop to detail these cars. So on the way home, when I would make like 70, 80 bucks, I'm doing good, man. I'm 12 years old, I'm doing great. So this is like fall of 85. We're leaving the detail shop and he's in the car. Junior's in the car and he pops in a cassette and he starts playing this song called I'm Still. And he kept saying, man, this is the OJ Sons. These are the OJ Sons. And me and my dad looking at each other like, what are you talking about, the OJ Sons? Man, and he's singing, it sounds like Eddie Levert, but it ain't him. But man, it's the OJ Sons, the OJ Sons. The cassette, he took the cassette out. It had OJ Sons on it. And like, what are you talking? This is 85, right? He was playing that song, and there was another song on it called Pop, Pop, Pop. And we just like, I mean, the song was dope. We loved it, but he just loved it. He was so adamant about, these are the OJ Sons, the OJ Sons. About a year later, it's the fall, like summer 86, I'm looking at videos and they premiere Levert, and Pop, Pop, Pop was the lead off song. And I'm sitting there looking at the TV like, mouth open, like, how did Unc have this song? Now again, I'm in Ohio. Levert is based in Cleveland. So Cleveland and Dayton is roughly about a 2-3 hour roll. So somehow, some way, he got that tape, man. But this was their first record. It wasn't with, I think Atlantic was the record they wound up being major. This was the first record. So to find this was crazy at Vinyl Days, man. So it's a lot of these songs I don't know, but I know I'm Still for sure. And there's some other stuff on there. I see that Eddie Levert did some production on it. He was definitely instrumental in getting Levert their shot. And you know, being that he was in the industry that long, he had a great reach as far as getting them the help they needed. So man, this was so cool to find. I mean, it wasn't expensive. And man, just can't believe that Gerald and Sean are gone. Gerald has some monsters. Man, I Was Made to Love You, and in my songs, man, Gerald Levert was bad. And for Sean to pass away, it's wild. Eddie Levert's been through a lot, man. So shout out to him, man. But yeah, this was dope to find. Brian Auger, great organist. Happiness Is Just Around the Bend. I think Main Ingredient redid that song as well. But I've heard bits and pieces of this, but I wanted to do more on this as well. So definitely lucky to find it. Hold on, look, my phone is tripping. Okay, cool. All right, so those are what I found at Vinyl Days. Some of these others I found at kind of my known spots. Mad Jack's here in Charlotte, and Jam Pack as well, and some eBay stuff. So David Sanborn, Backstreet. I had this on CD, but I always wanted it on vinyl. It's a good Sanborn album. Probably A Tear for Crystal, probably one of my favorites. It's kind of a slower song, but good album. Definitely mid-'80s, Marcus Miller producing. Can't go wrong. Oh man, I got a Steve Miller double play. Got the greatest hits, and then the Fly Like an Eagle joint. I don't know what Steve Miller's was on, but man, he was bringing heat on both of these, man. So a lot of great songs. That I got this on CD, definitely, but I never had this on vinyl or CD. So this was kind of cool to find, but I was able to scoop both of these up for $1. 29, Lenny White. Lenny White is a great jazz drummer, but he also kind of stuck his foot in some funk and R&B. And 29 was a lot of guys that he kind of mentored in the Queens, New York area. Lenny's probably known more as a drummer for a jazz fusion group called Return to Forever. So, I mean, Lenny's tough, but he did a lot of R&B stuff and some jazz stuff as well. So this was kind of cool to find. There's a song on here called Morning Sunrise. Probably more famous, sampled by Jay-Z. He had a song called, is it Summer? Dear Summer, yeah, Dear Summer. So they used that as a backdrop. So the great Lenny White. Pieces of a Dream. This is maybe one of my favorite jazz groups, based out of Philly. They were basically teenagers right here. I think they probably been no more than 18, 19 years old, and they're still making music to this day. But this was their first record, and I like, when I collect, I like building out what I have. So I didn't have their first record, so I wanted to have this. Probably the most notable song on here is a song called Warm Weather. Good quiet storm, kind of jazz thing. So happy to find that. James Bond, 007, all the things. I kind of just got this on a whim, because I may make some beats to it. I don't know, but I used to love, I like Live and Let Die, and you know, there was some Nobody Does It Better. So I thought it was just kind of cool to grab for $10, not bad. Oh wow, the legend, Janet Jackson, Control. Used to have this on vinyl years ago. I don't know where that record is, but I was glad to kind of find this. This is not Janet's first record. A lot of people think that Control is her first record. It's not. I think this was like her second or third record. So Control was not the first record, but this was her first record working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, which kind of kicked off all those great, amazing songs and hits that they were able to do. So, but this was a great kickoff for them. Streets of Fire. This was the 80s, all my 80s babies, all my 80s heads. You kind of remember this movie. I remember bits and pieces of it, but the song on here I liked was I Can Dream About You by Dan Hartman. This is just some good 80s songs. I just used to like that song when I would hear it or see it on the video. And so when I saw this, I said, let me just grab this for $3. I can deal with this. In a weird way, man, I'm becoming more of a Gino Vanelli fan. And I've heard his songs, you know, Living by Myself, you know, the other songs as well he's done. I Just Want to Stop. But some of his other stuff is really good. And you just don't, you really don't know until you really start listening, kind of going down the rabbit hole. But this was kind of a best of. I just grabbed it for like $3. I don't even think it was $3. I think it was $1. It wasn't even $3. So couldn't go wrong with that. These two I got from eBay. The late great George Duke, man, one of my favorite jazz pianists of all time. This is probably when he was working with, where he just left Frank Zappa and Cannonball Adderley, and he started kind of going on his own and doing his own thing. These are like before he really dug deep into doing like more funk. He was still doing jazz fusion stuff. So this was like maybe the second or third record around that time, but always wanted it. And I found it on eBay for like $8. So that was a pretty good find. Haven't been able to play it yet, but I will pretty soon. And last but not least, the late great George Howard, love will follow. George is based out of Philly, saxophone player. Had a lot of great albums. This is probably my second favorite. Probably Nice Place to Be is my favorite. But both of those came out around in '86. But he had a pretty good run. Unfortunately, he passed away, I think in '98. He had lymphoma. So at 42, died really, really young. And a lot of those smooth jazz artists died young, man. Like you had George, there was another guy named Art Porter. He died very young, very mysteriously. I think he drowned. Zachary Bro was an up-and-coming jazz guitarist. He passes away unexpectedly. Ronnie Jordan, another jazz guitarist that I was a big fan of, he passes away. So you just enjoy these musicians while they're here and try to buy their work. And if you can see them. If you can participate in whatever they're doing, do it. because man, as my uncle would say, ain't nobody getting out this thing alive. So you got somebody you want to go see them. You patronize their work, do whatever you can to get a part of their thing. So, but with that being said, that's what I got this week. So again, shout out again to Vinyl Days in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Enjoyed the shop. Definitely going to check you guys out next time I'm in town. And on that note, we'll holler at y'all later. Have a good one.